ala Rasulillah wa ba'd. So welcome to the Zakah workshop, which seems to be one of the very few classes that has a very different proportion of males to females.
What do you mean?
There are about 80 to 20% males versus females in this class. And I'm not going to comment further on that. Might be connected to the topic. All right, so this is going to be as concise of a detailed zakah class that I can give. I usually give a 2 hour class on zakah, but I'm going to try to make it super condensed, inshallah. So let's get right into it. Zakah is a pillar of Islam. Zakah is as important as prayer 5 times a day. Zakah is as important as fasting in the month of Ramadan. Zakah is as important as doing Hajj at least once in your lifetime. So we should take zakah very seriously. But how do you pay zakah? A lot of people know that zakah is one of the 5 pillars of Islam. A lot of people don't know the correct way to pay zakah and what exactly zakah is. Many people, or quite a few Muslims I've met, they think zakah is like just giving some charity to the poor. But that's not what zakah is. So we're going to see what it is. The way in which you calculate your zakah is you total all of your productive assets. What are your productive assets? You take how much cash you have, you take how much money you have in the bank, and you look at all of your investments. You add them all up together. So you go to your house and you say, I have cash in my wallet. How much do I have? $37. I put $20 under my pillow as a security safe, just in case something happens. You have to calculate that too. I have $20 hidden in my car in the glove compartment, just in emergency. I need to calculate that too. Then you look at how much money you have in your bank account on the day your zakah is due. You look at your stock market investments or whatever other investments you have. You add all of them up. And if your total value of all of those productive assets is more than 85 grams of gold equivalent, then you have to pay zakah. 85 grams of gold a little while ago in 2026 was $13,000. A few days ago, $13,700. Gold right now is at an all-time high, right? So if you have less than 85 grams of gold equivalent, you don't need to pay zakah until you get some more money, until you get above this amount of gold. Okay, so that is the way it works. And then what you're going to do is you're going to pay 2.5% of zakah on the total amount that you have. So if you had $75,000, or let's say, to make it easy, the math easy, you had $100,000, you have to give 2.5% of that as zakah, give it to charity. So how much money is that? $2,500. Yes, very good. Let's take an example now, okay? Practical example. You go through your house and you calculate how much all of your clothes are worth. You calculate how much all of your furniture is worth. That's your kitchen table, your bed, your sofa, everything. And you go through your fridge and you go through your pantry and you look at all the food in your home and you calculate everything. How much could I sell all of this for? And you're like, it's worth about $2,000. But that's your personal property. It's not cash, it's not money in the bank, and it's not an investment. So it's not a productive asset. So even though that's money, you could sell that. You could get $2,000 if you sold everything, but you are not going to have to pay zakah on that money because these are personal items and they don't count towards zakah. So we're going to exclude those. And then you look at your vehicles and you say, I have 2 cars. Each car is worth $5,000. So I have $10,000 value. If I sold these both cars, I'd get $10,000. But I use these vehicles. I'm not buying and selling cars. I'm not a car salesperson. I'm not flipping cars. These are my cars that I use. Me and my wife, we use these cars. So I'm using these for my personal use. You do not have to consider them for zakah. So even though so far you have $12,000 worth of items, you do not have to pay zakah on that $12,000 yet. Next example. You own electronics. You have an iPhone, then you have you have two laptops, you have a TV, you have some other stuff worth $5,000 if you sold them. But that's your personal items, your personal belongings. You use them. They're not cash, they're not banks, they're not money in the bank, they're not investments. You are not going to count those towards zakat. So you have $17,000, but you're still not going to count it towards zakat. Next, you check the cash that you have in your home. You have a little bit in your pocket, you have a little bit in your car. It's $1,000. That is a productive asset. So you are going to pay zakah on this $1,000. Why is money a productive asset? Because if it's sitting in your pocket and you're not spending it, but you're just storing it. Let's say you have a safe at home and you just keep that money in your little safe. What you should be doing with that money? You could save a little bit, but you should be investing that money so it circulates within the community and you could try to make more money off of that money. But since you're just kind of piling it up and just storing it, it has the potential to be productive, even though you're not making it productive. So it's called zakatable. You have to pay zakah on that $1,000. Then you check your checking account in your bank. You have $2,000. That's productive asset. So now how much money so far do you have to pay on? How much do you have to pay zakah on so far? Total. $3,000 so far. Good. Now you look into your stock market, your E-Trade or Charles Schwab portfolio or your Robinhood portfolio, and you have 100 shares of NVDA in E-Trade. Does anybody know what NVDA is? Yes, NVIDIA. How do you know that? How old are you? Are you trading stocks? Okay, just making sure. Alhamdulillah. But yes, it's NVIDIA, which is one of the most valuable companies on earth right now because of AI. They produce the chips in AI and they produce graphic cards for all gamers. They have NVIDIA chips. And they also do no, they don't anymore. They used to do the Tesla autopilot. So you have $3,000 in shares of NVIDIA. Is that a productive asset? Is it going up or down in value? Yes. Hopefully it's going up because I have some as well. All right. And then you have 100 shares of SPUS in your Roth IRA account. Does anyone know what SPUS is? The Sharia compliant S&P 500. It's an ETF. It's exchange traded fund. And so it's in your Roth IRA. So who can tell me what is a Roth IRA account? It's like a 401k. It's a retirement account that you voluntarily put, but it's a Roth version of an IRA account. So you're gonna pay your tax in advance, and then your investment will grow post tax, but then you won't have to get taxed later. So, anyways, it's a good way to save up money. It is a productive asset. So you are going to consider that for the purpose of zakah. And then you have cryptocurrency in your Bitcoin wallet, and you have $2,000 in Bitcoin, not because you are investing in Bitcoin, but because you took it as a concern that the US dollar may be going down in value. So you have $2,000 in there. And now you have to look and say, okay, how much money in productive assets do I have? How much do you have? $10,000. So we got 1,000, 2,000, that's 3 plus 3, 6 plus 4. Yes, we have $10,000. How much zakah are you going to pay? How much? $250. That is very, very close. You did the correct calculation, but the correct answer is 0 because you do not have 85 grams worth of gold yet. If you double that and you had $20,000, now how much money do you have to pay in zakah? $500. Very good. Okay, so that's the way zakah works. If you already have a good amount of money. Now we're going to go back in time. You're young and you got your first job in your life. Okay, and you just got a job on the 15th day of Ramadan and you make $1,000 per month. And we know that the value of gold for 85 grams of gold is $13,000. On what date will you start to have $13,000 or 85 grams of gold? What will be the date? 23rd of Ramadan the next year? How'd you get that?
Well, it depends how much you save.
You save all of it because your parents pay for everything. They're the nicest people ever. Or let's say you're married and your wife pays for everything. Right? She's super nice. Right? Yes, how much? In the Islamic calendar. So what would the date be?
Shaban 15 on next year.
Close.
2020.
2 months after Ramadan 15 on the next year.
Also close. Shawwal 15th. Maybe that's what you meant. Sha'ban is 1 month before Ramadan. Shawwal is 1 month after Ramadan. So Shawwal, on the 15th of Shawwal, you will now be at $13,000. So do you pay zakat on that day? No. From that day is the day you become zakah qualified to pay. Now you have 1 year to keep making money in order for you to be able to pay that zakah. So let's say you keep the same job and your nice parents or your nice wife keeps on paying for you and you save everything. When will you actually pay zakah and how much zakah will you pay? Shawwal, what day of Shawwal? 15th of Shawwal on the next year. And how much money will you pay? 2.5% of what amount? Of how much?
The original 13.
No, see, that's a misconception. It's the new amount. And I'm going to explain that later on, but it's the new amount. How much money do you have?
26.
26? 25, because 12 months later. So you have $25,000, you're going to pay 2.5% on that, which is how much? $750? $750. So, alhamdulillah, this is the way zakah works. Now, let's go through some basic issues on loans. So if you have loans, what are you going to do? You're going to deduct the loans that are due right now and the ones that you're actually going to pay. You don't deduct loans that you're not going to pay. So let's take some examples. You have $10,000 of productive wealth. You have a car and you're financing it, halal finance somehow, and it's $200 a month for 12 months. Which amount are you going to subtract from the $10,000? Just $200. Because the only amount that you're going to pay right now, and it's due right now, is $200. That's it. You're only going to subtract $200. You're not going to subtract the entire $2,400. Then you have somehow a halal home mortgage. Okay? It's $2,000 a month for 150 months. Are you going to subtract the entire amount? How much money is that? Yeah. $300,000. So are you going to subtract $300,000 and say, man, I need to receive zakat money to pay off my nice house? No, it can't be. So you're only going to subtract the installment that you're planning on paying and that is due right now. The rest of it is a long-term loan. You're not going to deduct it from your zakah. Then you have halal student loan, somehow from a continuous charity, right? And it's $200 a month. You're supposed to be paying back on a standard 10-year repayment plan. How much do you subtract of that loan, student debt? $200. That's it. All right. So you can subtract that. You have a credit card balance that you bought a bunch of stuff. You went to Anthropology, you went to Madewell, and you went to TJ Maxx, and you put all of these clothes on your credit card, and you owe $1,000 at the end of the month. Can you subtract that or no? You can subtract that entire amount because it's due now, and it's going to keep on accumulating interest. So this is different. Credit card debt is all due right now. You should be paying it off. All right, so you don't want to carry a balance because you're going to get 18% interest or whatever. Your taxes are due. When are your taxes due? April 15th. When are your taxes calculated by the government? Like what you owe them on what time frame? Until December 31st. So if you're paying your zakah before December 31st, you are not subtracting your taxes because it's not due for the entire year yet. If your taxes are due, which technically they're due December 31st, but you don't have to pay them until April 15th, and you're about to go and pay them, you can subtract that amount because you know you're going to be paying your taxes. You're not deferring that. Otherwise, Uncle Sam will put you in jail, and you don't want that either. So you're going to subtract your taxes. So these are the things that you can deduct in terms of loans. We won't do the calculations, but you understand what amount of debt or what type of debts are you allowed to subtract and which ones can you not subtract. There's a lot of people I've heard from, they say, well, I have a $700,000 mortgage on my house and I only have $400,000 in my bank account. So if you subtract 700,000 from 400,000, I don't ever pay zakah because I'm in debt. No, you don't count in debt for the purpose of zakah. You're going to be paying your zakah on that $400,000 minus your monthly installment. Okay, I'm going to take questions at the end, inshallah. Next. So only certain people can receive zakah. Zakah cannot just go to anybody. So who does zakah need to go to? There's a verse in the Quran. And whenever we have a verse in the Quran in one of my classes where my student Jabir is present, we will always ask him to quote the surah name and the verse number of this surah. So Jabir, what is this verse number and surah?
Surah Tawbah, ayah 60.
Ayah 60. Can you?
No, it doesn't say zakah.
It says sadaqat, but in the context, it is zakah. So can you just quote it for us real quick?
Yeah.
Bismillah.
It says إنما الصدقات للفقراء والمساكين والعاملين عليها والمؤلفة قلوبهم وفي الرقاب والغارمين وفي سبيل الله وابن السبيل فريضة من الله والله عليم حكيم.
Good. So in this verse, 8 categories are mentioned. And so among the categories, we'll just talk about the most important people. The first one is the poor and the needy. 2 categories there. This is the primary recipients of zakah. Zakah is supposed to go to people who are poor. You're not allowed to give it to someone who is rich. Number 2, or the second category, is people who are in debt. But what kind of debt? Necessary debt that is due right now. They need to pay their absolute necessities. Not people who have a loan on their car or a loan on their student education or a loan on their home. We're talking about debts like when people could not even afford basic necessities and they had to take that money. You can help them pay off their debt. Then the third one is, like for example, medical bills or something like that. They're in debt. This is something really needed and they can't afford it. It's to help that person pay off their debts. And the third example is a stranded traveler. Somebody's stranded, they have access to their money, but they can't reach their money right now, and because it's not available to them, they need help because they might be in a foreign land. So there's very specific categories of people who can receive zakah. This is an old stat. I forgot to update this. But basically, in 2019, a single person poverty rate was $12,490, probably around $20,000 right now with inflation, something like that. And a family of 4 was $25,750, probably $30,000 to $35,000 right now for a family of 4. So people who are in actual need, they're the ones who can receive zakah. So you can let a responsible organization distribute it on your behalf. You want to be careful who you pick. You don't want to have like non-Muslims distributing your zakah for you or something like that. Who cannot receive zakah? This is extremely important. Number 1, a non-Muslim cannot receive zakah. Zakah is taken from Muslims. It's being given back to Muslims. Number 2, but you can give charity to non-Muslims, but zakah is specific for Muslims. Number 2, you cannot give zakah that comes back and benefits you in your own, benefits yourself. So for example, if the masjid comes and says, hey, our air conditioner is broken and it's summer, or our heater is broken and it's winter, can somebody please help donate to fix this? And you're like, well, I come to the masjid and I don't want to be cold. I don't want to be too hot. Let me help fix it by using my zakah money. You cannot give that money to something where you're going to benefit back yourself. You cannot give zakah to your own children. Why can't you give it to your children? Because you're responsible for paying for your children, right? So that would be benefiting you. You cannot give zakat to your parents, because if your parents are in need, it's your job as their child, to pay their expenses that are necessary. So you would be benefiting yourself if you give zakat to your parents. So you cannot give it to your children. You cannot give it to your parents. You cannot give it for a new masjid carpet or something like that because you're praying on it. It's going to benefit you. You cannot give zakat to a non-person. Okay, a non-person. So you can't give zakat to a masjid because masjid is not a person. You cannot give zakah to build a bridge because a bridge is not a person. It doesn't own money. So how much is this bridge worth? We don't know. Like how much value does this bridge have? This bridge is in debt. They don't own money. So inanimate objects cannot own things. A hospital, you cannot give zakat to a hospital because a hospital does not own something. It's not a person. So zakah is supposed to be given to a person that can actually own money or be in debt or whatever, can transact with money. And the last person is you cannot give zakat to a lazy person or somebody who's a fake. So anybody who has the ability to work, but they're lazy, they just don't want to work, you cannot give zakat to them. And this is in the books of fiqh. This is in all the books of Islamic law. But people who are unable, genuinely unable to find a job, and it's very clear that they're struggling for whatever reason, but they're trying, then zakah can be given to them. And you cannot give zakah to pay for your taxes. You cannot say, well, I pay for my taxes and therefore I'm not going to pay zakah. Or I'm going to use some of my zakat to pay my taxes. So I owe $500 in zakah, and when it comes time to pay the US government, part of my taxes, I'm going to give my zakah money there. You can't do that, and I'm going to explain further why. All right. Miscellaneous common questions about zakah. Can I pay my zakah early? Yes, you can. So if somebody comes to you and says, hey, I really need help. I'm about to be kicked out of my apartment and I need some money. I can't pay my rent. And they're not lazy. They're working. They have a job. They're trying really hard, but they aren't able to make ends meet. You can pay your zakah early. When your zakah is due, you're just going to say, well, I already paid my zakah. Or I paid half of my zakah early, and I'm just going to pay the rest of my half that is due. Can you pay, or do you pay on the purchase price, the market value, or on the future selling price of an investment like your stocks? What do you think? Is it the purchase price, the market value, or the future selling price? Let's take NVIDIA. You bought NVIDIA for $20 per share, and now it's $40 per share. And when you sell it 3 years from now, it's going to be $60 per share. How much money do you pay zakah on right now, this year? The market value, right? You cannot know what the future price is, so that's impossible. And you do not do it on the purchase price because the current value is what it's valued at right now. So that's what's going to happen when it comes to investments like stocks. Do you pay zakah on your home or on a rental property that you own and you're renting out, or on land that you own for your personal use or for renting out that land? The answer is no, you don't. Even though it's technically an investment, the classical fatwa and even the modern fatwa is that a home, because it's not easily able to be flipped, and because it is a immovable asset, it is considered to be in a separate category where it's not going to be subjected to zakat. Next question. If I have a business, do I calculate the retail price, the wholesale price, or the liquidation price of all my merchandise? So let's say, for example, you have a business at home and you buy and sell. Somebody give me an interesting item. You buy and you sell labubus, okay? And so at home you have like a whole room. You don't know what a labubu is? It's like a little toy doll that some people think is creepy, right? So you have like 1,000 of them in your storage at home, and you sell them, and each one you sell for like $20. Okay, so you're selling each one for $20, and you have 1,000 in storage. How much is the value of all of these labubus? $20,000. But if you pay your zakah right now and you say, look, I need to get rid of all 1,000 labubus, you sell one for $20. But if somebody comes and says, I'm going to buy 10, you give it to them for $15 each for 10. If they buy more, you give them a cheaper price. But if you need to sell all 1,000 right now, because you really, really need the money, it's called the liquidation price. Somebody comes and says, I will buy all 1,000 of them for you in one shot, but only $10 a piece, not $20 a piece, not $15 a piece. I'll buy all of them for only $10 a piece if you want me to take all 1,000. So when you're calculating your zakah, you're not selling everything. It's still staying there, but you got to pay on the inventory of all these products you have. Which value do you calculate to pay your zakah? The liquidation value, because that would be the amount of money that you would have if you needed to sell them right now. Next, do I pay on a retirement restricted accounts like 401k, 403b, IRA accounts, Roth IRA, Roth 401k, any type of account that you have restricted access to? The answer is yes, you will pay zakah on those accounts. Why? Because it's your money. You own it. No one's taking it away from you. Do you pay zakah on stock options from a company that are unvested? No. Because unvested means if you leave your job, the company takes the stocks back. They're not vested. Once they become vested, when you leave your job, that's your money. So if you have a retirement account and that money has been put in there and it's you're accumulating money, whatever it is in that container of a retirement account, is that money guaranteed to be yours or not? It's yours. It's your money. Can't be taken away from you. So you will be paying zakah on it. Now the question is, how much money are you going to pay zakah on it? So there's two opinions, and I think both opinions are pretty strong. And I've become a little bit more soft on the second opinion lately. I used to be a little bit critical of it. The first opinion is you're going to pay on the total amount. The second opinion, just like the liquidation price of the 1,000 labubus, you're going to subtract your current tax bracket, and you're going to subtract the penalty, which is usually 10%, and you're going to subtract that because if you had to liquidate those stocks today, how much money would you actually end up in your account? Because you're not retirement age yet, you can subtract that amount that you would have to remove in order to get the money that you have, and you're going to pay zakah on that amount. There's two opinions there. These are two strong opinions. The opinions that are weak is that you don't pay zakah on it at all, but it's your money. People have $1 million sitting in their 401k or even more, and they have like almost nothing sitting in their bank account, and it's not fair. If somebody has $1 million worth of stock not in a retirement account, somebody else has $1 million worth of stock in a retirement account, why would this person have to pay zakah? This other person who's getting a tax advantage doesn't have to pay zakah, right? So it wouldn't seem to make sense because they both are your money. Even though one is restricted, you voluntarily restricted it for the tax benefit. Next, can I give my zakah for someone else to distribute for me? Yes, you can. So you can give zakah to somebody who is in need. You know that they're in need, you give it to them. But let's say you say, well, it's hard for me to know who's real. Some people pretend. Even people sometimes sit outside the masjid and they're pretending. They're not even Muslims. There's actually like a cult that goes and they beg and they pretend like they're Muslims and they're asking for money. So there are some people who are specialized in finding out who really deserves, to be given some charity or given some money or given zakah. And so we should try, if you can't figure it out yourself, give your zakah for those people to distribute on your behalf. But you got to be careful. What you need to be careful about is that the people that you're giving it to, you should not be giving it to someone who makes this their personal business, where they're like, I take 30% of whatever you give me as a service fee to get the money to the people who are poor. That's not a good practice at all. You don't give it to, let's say, somebody owns a pharmacy, and the pharmacy says, we help people with zakah who cannot afford medicine. Give us your zakah money, and anyone poor comes in, tries to buy medicine, we'll give them the zakah money on your behalf, and they could buy our medicine. What's the problem with that? It doesn't give, what is the problem with that?
Some of them might not be Muslims.
No, not only that. So that's one problem. They might not be Muslim. The second problem is that the people who are in need of medicine, zakah is technically supposed to go to them, and they get to pick any pharmacy they want to buy that medicine from. But when you give it to one specific pharmacy, it seems legitimate, but now that person can only buy it from that pharmacy. So what is it doing? It's boosting the sales of that specific. The pharmacy is not donating the medicine. They're just helping distribute your zakah for you, but at the same time, they're locking in the people from having to buy from them rather than letting them to choose to buy from any other pharmacy. Same problem happens when you give your zakat to an Islamic school which says, we will help support the poor students. But the poor students don't get to choose which Islamic school they want to go to. They can only go to the ones that are saying, we'll go ahead and pay the tuition on your behalf. The same thing happens with the grocery store. The same thing happens with other charitable organizations. So this becomes a problem. We need to understand how to avoid the problem. Next, how do I calculate zakah for previous missed years? You go back, if you missed years of zakah, like you miss a prayer. If you miss a prayer, you got to make up that prayer. If you miss 2 prayers, you make up both prayers. If you miss 2 years of zakat, you go back, calculate, look at your bank statements, try to approximate how much money you would have owed, and you still pay that missed zakah money. Do I pay zakah money on money that I loaned out? So Yusuf comes to me and says, you know what, I need to borrow $1,000. And what would I say? Why would an 11-year-old need $1,000? Because he's my son. But let's just say the different Yusuf asked me for $1,000 and I need to loan him the money. Now I give him $1,000 and I don't have that money. It's mine. He's going to pay me back. But now it's my zakat time. So he has that money. I don't have that money. Maybe he'll pay me back in a year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. If I keep paying zakat on that money and I don't know when I'm getting it back, I'm just going to keep paying on something that I don't even have. And it's not able to increase because he's not allowed to pay me interest because interest is haram. So when you give out money on a loan, you do not need to pay zakah on that money until you get it back in your possession. And there's a few different opinions on this. What about on a debt that I owe? I borrowed money from somebody and I have to pay them back. And so because I have to pay them back, but the money is in my hands right now, do I have to pay zakah on it? Absolutely. Someone's going to have to pay zakah on that money. It's either the person who loaned it out or the person who's borrowing it right now. Whoever's hand that money is in, they're going to be paying zakah on that money, or at least they're going to calculate that money for the purpose of zakah. Okay, next. Zakah on jewelry. Very common question, and there's a big difference of opinion. So there are 3 different opinions among scholars. The Hanafi school of thought, with Imam Abu Hanifa, he says that you have to pay zakah on jewelry, which is made of gold, every single year, on the total amount of gold. Why does he say that? Because in the past, all money was made of gold and silver. There was a dinar and a dirham, 2 types of coins. One is a gold coin, one is a silver coin. Which one was the gold coin? The dirham or the dinar? Do you know? The dinar, very good. And what was the dirham made of? Silver, very good. Okay. So the school of Hanafi school said, this is currency. So any jewelry that's made of gold, if you ever needed money, you could literally just go to somebody, they'll melt the gold for you, and they could turn it back into coins. It's almost the same as having money. So if you have cash, today we have bills. In the past, when you had cash or currency, there were a bunch of gold coins and silver coins. You could take that and literally, whatever cash you have, the jewelry is the same thing. You just melt it. What is the melt value of that gold and silver? You could turn them into coins and it'll become the same as cash. And therefore, you have to pay zakah on your jewelry because it's almost the exact same thing as the currency that you're using. The second opinion was Imam Shafi'i's opinion. And that is that you do not need to pay zakah on jewelry, because jewelry is for personal use. People are not using jewelry for like they use money. It's something you're wearing, something that you're going to keep, and because you're using it, it's like your clothing. You may wear expensive clothing. You may have clothing worth $1,000 for a shirt. You're still not going to pay zakah on it. So Imam Shafi viewed it in the line of like personal item like clothing or books or weapons or tools. You're not paying on anything, even though they have a value. Personal items are exempt from zakah. Imam Abu Hanifa viewed that you have to pay zakah because it has a melt value. It's like currency. And then there was an opinion in between, some scholars had. It said if you wear the jewelry regularly, then it's for personal value. If you have so much jewelry that you pretty much barely wear it, you keep it in like a safe deposit box, and you look at it as like, this is my life savings, and this is how much money in case a rainy day, something happens, I need this money as an emergency. I always got this stash of money in the form of jewelry. I can always sell it. Then that amount you're going to pay zakah on, but the one that you wear regularly, like every day or every week or whatever, that one is your personal, it's going to be exempt. So if you have a lot of money, it's better for you just to be on the safe side and pay on the jewelry, because you are giving this money to the poor anyways. Even if you overpay your zakah a little bit, it's sadaqah. It's giving charity. You get reward for it. So that's what I recommend people do if they're financially well off. And people who are financially well off are the only ones who have jewelry. You shouldn't be finding people who are like homeless on the street. They don't have food, and yet they have like jewelry and they have gold bangles and everything. And that, can somebody please help me with food? Something is not right with that. Even though there may be some people like that, it's just something's not right with that picture. All right, the last slide I have is misconceptions of zakat, and then I'll take questions. So I need some people to help me answer these common misconceptions that a lot of Muslims have about zakat. Number one, I get more reward for paying my zakah in the month of Ramadan. Is this true or not true? It's not true. Why is it not true? In the back.
Whether it's in month of Ramadan or not in month of Ramadan.
Right. So zakah is going to be due somewhere in the year, depending on when you first started making that money. Like the example that I gave long in the beginning of class, that zakah was due on which date? Who remembers what the date was? 15th of Shawwal. So if the guy says, I wanna pay in Ramadan so I get more reward, you don't get more reward for paying in Ramadan. Your zakah is due on that day. You pay it on the day it's due. Right? Allah's not going to give you more reward for accidentally happening to get a job where exactly the time you make enough money, it happens to be due in the month of Ramadan. It's not the case. So you don't get more reward for paying zakah in Ramadan. You're supposed to pay zakah when it's due. Misconception number two, I choose when I want to pay my zakah. Is that true?
Actually, I don't know about that one.
Okay. That's why this class exists. Yes. Why? You do it when you have enough money. So you do it when it's actually due for the first time. So you don't get to choose. You don't say, I think I'm going to pay zakah in about 3 months. Based on what? Based on your feeling? No. Zakat is due 1 lunar year after you first had 85 grams of gold. Right? That's the way it works. Number 3, I choose how much zakah I want to give. You can't imagine how many people have come to me in the masjid and said, I think I want to pay zakat this year. How much you think I should give? This is not a charitable donation. I would like to give some money to the poor. How much should I give? This is zakat. Straight up calculation. What's the calculation? How much are you supposed to give? 2.5%. How do you do that on a calculator? If you have $17,500, what do you type into your calculator to figure out how much zakah you give? Yes, Mariam? Times 0.25? Close.
No.
0.025. That's one way to do it. What's the second way to do it? Yeah.
No.
You got, what's the 2.5%? I heard it in the back. You divide by 40. And so that's what the Prophet ﷺ said. Divide by 40 is the same as 2.5%.
How?
So this is what the Prophet ﷺ told people. He said, just double check your math, Jabir. So he said, for every 40 coins you have, every 40 gold coins you have, you're going to give one in charity. That's a hadith. So simple. You just divide by 40 and you get the amount of zakat that you're supposed to be giving. So you don't get to choose how much you want to give. Another misconception. I pay zakat on the amount that I had last year. Common misconception. So people will say, okay, just like the example. The person earned $13,000, 85 grams of gold for the first time on the 15th of Shawwal. 1 year later, now they have $25,000. So the misconception is, well, I only had the previous amount for an entire year. I have not had $25,000 for a whole year. I've not had $24,000 for a whole year. I've not had $23,000 for a whole year. And this is a mistake in understanding what it means to have a hawl. And without going into details, the opinion of the majority of scholars is you're supposed to have above 85 grams of gold 1 year prior. And if you're still above 85 grams of gold, you're going to pay on the current amount of money that you have right now. It's not going to be on the previous amount. Okay? I won't go into too much detail unless you ask. So if you had $20,000 last year, last lunar year, and now you have $40,000, are you paying the 2.5% on 20,000 or 40,000? It's on 40,000. It's a very common misconception. Next, I don't pay zakah if I have debts. So I subtract my $700,000 home and my $400,000 in the bank. I don't need to pay zakah on it. Incorrect. Next, I don't pay on money that is set aside to pay for a future expense, like college. I have a little savings I have for college. I'm saving up because college is so expensive. So I put $20,000 in this envelope. And every month I put $1,000 in the envelope. That's my college fund. Or that's my children's college fund. I want them to go to university. Can I subtract that from my zakah? No, because if you are in financial trouble, before you become homeless, you will take the money out of that envelope and say, you know what, I really wanted you kids to go to college, but I really need this money to support our family. So you have access to that money. It's your money. You will be paying zakah on it. Same thing for future marriage. Same thing to go on a vacation. If you set aside money, it doesn't mean anything. But if you pay that money in advance, you say, I'm going to pay this college in advance. That money doesn't belong to me anymore. I prepaid something for the future. It's not your money anymore. So then you don't need to pay zakah on it. Okay? Next, I can give zakat to a masjid, a school, to a hospital, or I can give zakat to build a well. Seems like a very good, noble intention. Why can you not do this? Yes.
Because it's not an actual person.
Because it's not a person. It's not a person. Now, you're like, but what if it helps poor people? Let's say you build zakah to build a school. This school is good. But what if people who are not poor go to the school? It's helping. Zakah cannot be given to non-poor people. Let's say you have a hospital. You said we build this hospital to help the poor. But can non-poor people go to the hospital? Usually they can. Let's take the example of a well. It is a great idea to build a well in a very poor area so that people can have clean water. That's really good. The problem is who owns the well? Who gets access to the well? Now, if somehow the charitable organization could say, we're building a well and the ownership of the well is going to go to every single poor person in that village at the time, then absolutely it works. Because now you've transferred that need in their ownership. So they own that well, then that will absolutely work. But usually people don't do that. Next, I pay my taxes so I don't have to pay zakat. The problem with that is that when you pay your taxes, what do your American taxes primarily go to? Number one. Yes.
Government,
The government to do what type of things?
the company,
Number one, to kill Palestinians, okay, to support the state of Israel, for military expenditures, for building libraries. Can you build a library with zakah money? No. For building roads and freeways, can you use that zakah money for that? No. For to put into politicians' pockets to make them more enjoy their life, can you do zakah for that? No. So the majority of things, even though the government does have social services and does help some poor people, are the majority of those people, are they poor Muslims? American government? No. So how can anyone make the argument that because I pay my taxes, I don't need to pay zakah? And there is somebody claiming to be a sheikh who's very popular online, says that, yeah, you don't need to pay zakah if you pay your taxes. And it's a very flimsy and weak argument, so don't buy into that. Next, I can pay zakah over time. So let's say, for example, I have to pay $1,000 of zakah, and you know somebody who's in need. And you say, but I don't think this person's very responsible with money. So I want to give them $100 every month. Sounds like a good idea, so they don't waste all the money. But what's the problem with doing this? Yes.
You might get more money as you go.
No, something else. Yeah, in the back. If you die, you can't. Who's going to give the $100 on your behalf? There's another problem. So your zakat is due on a specific day. All $1,000 is due on that day. So if you say I'm going to give $100 a month, your zakat is going to be how late? 10 months late. When you pray, are you supposed to be praying late? No. Do you pray the next day? Do you pray like 3 weeks later? No. Zakat is like prayer. You have to pay it on time. So if you wanted to do the $100 a month, what should you do to solve this problem? You pay early. So I'll give you $100 a month before my zakat is due, so that by the time my zakat becomes due, I've already paid off my $1,000. And then you're fine. It works. Next, I shouldn't claim a tax deduction for zakah. Because I give zakah, and zakah is for the poor. It's an act of worship between me and Allah, and I'm helping the poor. I shouldn't claim that on my tax return and get a tax benefit. Why would you not try to get money back from the US government? Take it back. There's nothing wrong with that. If you want, give it more in charity. But you're not paying your zakah so you can get a tax deduction. But if you're already paying your zakah, absolutely take the tax deduction and pay less taxes. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. It doesn't taint or mess up your niyyah, your intention. Next, zakah can be used for marketing to get more zakah. So there are some organizations, this is a misconception, should not be done. So there are some organizations, they collect zakah and they say, we're going to give it to the poor people on your behalf. And then what they'll do is they'll collect the zakah and then they make YouTube ads. And in order to make a YouTube ad, you have to pay YouTube. And so they're using the zakah money that they collected to pay YouTube so that they can convince you to give more zakah, and then they can invest more into the YouTube ads, and now they become the #1 zakah distributing organization. What is wrong with that? Does anyone see a problem with that?
Yeah, it doesn't go to poor people.
It's not going to poor people. YouTube is not a poor person. They're not a poor organization either. It's owned by Google. All right? It's one of the largest, most wealthy companies in the world. So you have to be very careful about supporting people who are misusing their zakah, not in the right way, just so that they could grow their organization. That's not what zakah is supposed to be about. So I've been very critical about this, but I'm going to be more upfront about this because it's very concerning, this trend that's happening. Next misconception, I can pay according to the solar calendar. So my job, remember the dates that I gave you? The first job was 15th of Shawwal. He made the first $13,000. So let's say he didn't use Islamic dates. So I got my first job on January 1st. Next year, on January 1st, I should be paying zakah. What's wrong with that? It's 1 year. Why is it late? The solar year is how many days? How many days? 365. And the Islamic lunar year is how many days? Somebody else. You're getting all the answers, mashallah. Go ahead. 354. So 11-day difference. So what happens is every year you're paying 11 days late your zakah. After how many years will you be an entire year that you'll skip your zakah?
Actually, how many?
How many? Do the calculation, do the math.
Oh, 36.
354 divided by 11. 32. MashaAllah, man. We got some good,
34.
Young people doing their math. Right? So over 30 years, you're going to be skipping an entire year of zakah. Just skip one entire cycle of zakah. That's a huge deal. The last misconception is that zakah can go to poor non-Muslims.
No.
But it cannot. Now it's your chance to ask questions.
Can you please explain the rule, the hadith that says the money you pay zakat on has to be more than 1 year, right?
So there's several hadith about what's called a hawl. The hawl is the amount of time that you had above nisab to the another time 1 year later until you still have above nisab. So if you look at all the ahadith on the topic of mahala alayhi al-hawl, meaning 1 year has passed over that wealth, it doesn't mean that you had that amount of money. It means that you've had above nisab for an entire period of 1 year. And so the problem that would arise, Ibn Rushd explains this in Bidayat al-Mujtahid. He says that if you were to take every time you gained a new amount of money, you have a separate hawl. So when every time, let's say you have a salary of $1,000, the first time you're at $13,000, you have one hawl for that. You get $1,000, now you have 14, you have another hawl for that. You get another one, you have another hawl for that. He says then you would not be paying zakah one time per year. You'd be paying zakah every month. If your employer paid you every 2 weeks, you'd have a separate hawl for every 2 weeks. So he says this is impractical. You're supposed to combine everything and you look at a snapshot of your wealth over a period of 1 year, because you're only supposed to pay zakah one time per year. So what you do is you see if you've had the amount above the hawl at the beginning of the year and the end of the year, and you're going to pay at the amount that's at the end of the year. Only if you have a large asset that came into your possession for a period of time and you're going to be flipping that, for example, that's the only time where you're going to have a separate hawl for that large amount. But if you're getting a regular salary or regular money coming in, you're going to combine all of the hawls together into one hawl. That's the way it works.
For the example that you gave, we started with 13,000 pounds,
Correct.
so there's no nisab there.
No, he just reached nisab, but the hawl has not passed. The hawl begins. Hawl means 1 year. So the period of 1 year began when he first got $13,000. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but what was the nisab? 17,000, right?
13,000.
And that example.
In that example was 13,000. Okay. Yeah. Other questions?
Does it matter if the cash is given locally versus back home?
Generally, the rule is zakah should be given to your family members and to your local community first. If there's an emergency need somewhere else, then you could give it elsewhere. So the priority is these two. But usually, because we live in America, the standards of living are higher. There is an argument that can be made that people are more in need of funds abroad than in America, but there are still a lot of needy people in America as well. Question, yeah.
When you said about family members, unless your
Family members, unless they're your parents or children,
yes,
other family members. In the back.
So let's say like you're a son of your mother or father or daughter, and you're in control of their money, and they're old, they grew old in age, and you're basically you watch their finances and everything. So let's say you want that you'll pay zakat for their end, and let's say they don't want to pay zakat. What do you do in that case? Do you take their money, pay it in zakat, or do you listen to your parents and not pay it because they think it will go somewhere else?
Okay. So if they can't stop you and you're in charge of that money and the zakah is due on them and they are Muslims, but they're telling you no, you should not pay zakah, but you do have control over their money, over their assets for whatever reason, you should still pay zakah. So there are some times where parents, when they tell you to do something, you override that, and doing something that is an absolute requirement for them is for that reason. If they're dying and they say, do not put the medicine in my mouth, and the medicine is going to cure them, and they say, you better not do it. I'm telling you as a parent, do not put the medicine in my mouth. Should you put it in their mouth?
Yeah.
Absolutely. If they tell you that when I die, I want you to cremate and burn my body instead of burying it in the grave, and they write, you better do this. This is my last will, and I want you to honor what I'm writing in my will. Should you cremate their body or bury their body?
Bury their body.
You bury their body. So there are times where someone's going against Islam, you do not take their wishes into consideration. Yes. These are real cases, by the way. I actually get these cases. Yes, people have done this, and they have to override it. Yeah.
Do they still get say us for saying that, though, right? Like as if you have done it, or?
So the question is, will they get the reward for it? Allah knows whether if they're in the right mind or whatever, but it's not just about them getting the reward. This is not only about giving them the reward. Zakah is the right of the poor. And so by not doing it, you're depriving the poor people from their right to have some of the zakah money of people who are Muslim. So therefore, even if they don't get the reward, you still do it because the money is going to go to the people who need it. Okay. Next question.
Says for like poor people, does it have to cover like actual necessities, or does something like a legal bill count, or is it only like food, water, shelter?
No. Okay. So when it comes to giving to the poor, it's not only food, water, shelter, basic necessities. It can be legal bills. It can be medical bills. It can be some other basic things. But if you know they're abusing it, if they're going to like Disneyland with your zakah money, then you probably shouldn't be giving those people zakah again, right? But it doesn't have to just be only bare necessities. It could be other like bills that they need to pay, or even buy a car or something like that. Yeah.
So should I pay zakat exactly in one exact day, or just like I pay zakat every Ramadan?
So if you pay zakat every Ramadan, it should be on a specific day.
Not specific day, just during Ramadan.
No, zakah is due on a specific day.
If I don't know.
If you don't know this, that's why I gave the example of the first job, right? So if you remembered your first job when you first got the money, then you know exactly what it is. If you don't remember because it's been a long time, it has to be a specific day. So how do you pick one? You approximate. You say, when's the last time I paid zakah? Okay, I'm going to pick a conservative, safe one day of the year that I know is not too late, and I'm going to make that my day that I always pay zakat as long as I'm above nisab. And as long as you remain above nisab, just make that your day. So like, for example, I pick Ramadan the 1st. So, it's an easy day for me to remember. First day of Ramadan, that's the day it's going to. Some people, they say 15th of Ramadan. Some people, they say one day before Eid. Some people say the day of Eid. Pick a day that it's very easy for you to remember. Arbitrarily pick one if you can't remember, and just make a safe estimate. Pay a little extra for whatever you might have accidentally forgotten. And then from now on, you remember that day every single year is going to be the same. Sure. Yeah.
So if there's a organization like kind of like CARE or the Muslim Legal Fund of America, and these legal funds go towards the legal defense of Muslims who do not have the ability to afford legal counsel, would this be zakat eligible?
So technically, the way that it's supposed to be, I'll repeat the question. So if you're giving zakat to a legal fund that's going to be representing a Muslim who needs this specific legal immigration or some type of discrimination that happened or whatever it is, and these are important bills that they need to pay, what should have happened is that there should be a fund that somebody can hold and say, anyone who needs these legal services and cannot pay for it, we're going to give this money to you to pay for these legal services. And again, remember the caveat. They can't lock you into only their legal team. They should technically say, well, we're going to give you this money and you go find any lawyer that you need. We'll help you find a lawyer that's a fair price lawyer. And we're going to give you the money to be able to help. That's what's supposed to happen. Now, what actually happens is that some of these organizations, they take the zakah money and they say, we use the zakah money, we build out our entire legal team, and we do our marketing, and we do our this, and we do our that, and it's all funded by zakah money. Is that how zakah is supposed to function? No. Are they doing good work? Yes. But that is not how zakah is supposed to function. And so I've already given this advice to these organizations for the last 20 years. And the amount of the organizations, I think I've spoken to at least 10 major organizations. And how many of them have changed their model after I spoke to them? Does anyone know? 1 out of 10, actually. Alhamdulillah. Well, at least one. And I'll give it to them. It was ICNA Relief. ICNA Relief decided to adopt that model. Uplift already had that model. And the CAP program at ICOI and Rahma Center already has that model. So I can tell at least that there's 3 solid ones that are doing this. And in the UK, the majority of them, they all do it right. The reason why they do it right in the UK and they don't do it as well in the US is one big difference. There is no tax deduction for donations in the UK. The way the UK works is if you donate, the government is going to donate to that organization. It's like matching that these big tech companies do, right? They do like this matching of donation. That's what the UK government does. So completely different model, which helps fund all of those distribution organizations.
Even if they do that, they have a fund. Uh, there's no guarantee they will pay it on time for you. So they might pay it later to poor people because you want it to be paid on the
Yeah,
day.
so yeah, when you're giving it to a charitable organization, you also need to make sure you give it a little bit early because it takes them time to distribute that money. Until that money ends up in the hands of the poor, it's not distributed yet. Some organizations, I'm not going to mention names, but some of them, they hold on to that zakah money for over a year. It's never reached the poor because they don't have the support staff to be able to even get that money distributed, which is a problem in and of itself. So we should be very cautious about zakah and how we gets into the right hands. Other questions? Yeah.
What about an inaccessible investment? So if you invested in like crypto or gold or something, but then like let's say it's like frozen or it's fraud or something like
Okay, if it's genuinely frozen, right? Let's say the government freezes it, you don't have to pay zakah on it. If it's stuck in inheritance litigation, you don't need to pay zakah on it. But if you have incidental access to it, you need to pay on it. And what incidental access means is like, for example, a retirement account. People say, well, that money's frozen, I can't access it. Well, actually, you can. You can access it if you're going to be buying your first home. You can access it if you have hospital bills. You can access it if you quit your job and you go to another job. You can roll that 401k over into an IRA or whatever it is. Basically, the rule is this: before you become homeless, if you have $100,000 in your retirement account, you're not going to be living in a tent and you're like, I can't access the money. I have to live in a tent because I don't have a home. You will always get needed access to that money because it's your money. So if you have incidental access, you have to pay zakah on it. If you have no access at all because it's frozen in litigation or something like that, then you do not pay zakah on it. All right? Yeah.
Follow up to my last question. So, if let's say a nonprofit organization goes by the same model as the CAP, where it goes to individuals, and this goes towards, let's say, umrah for people, or hajj, or maybe even paying for mahr or helping with like school. That would be okay, like zakat eligible then.
Yeah, I mean, Hajj is generally not supposed to use zakat to be paying for Hajj. But for Mahr, yes, so people can get married, yes. It's for purposes like that.
Yes, can you fill us on the recent discussion about
Okay.
political?
Yeah, so the recent discussion is
And
is
tell us about different opinion on this.
okay. So the Fiqh Council of North America, which I am part of, and AMJA, which I go to their conference and I present at their conference. These are two important fiqh councils in the United States, in North America. And so they recently passed a fatwa which says that the category of the 8 categories in the Quran, one of them is called mu'allafatul qulub. It's people whose hearts need to be softened. They said that you can use zakah to be given for political campaigns. So, for example, if Mamdani is running for mayor, you can give money to his political campaign because this is going to somehow help Muslims. And let's say he's not a Muslim, you can still give money to non-Muslims for their political campaigns in order for you to help the Muslim ummah in some way or whatever it may be. So I was part of the refutation group that highly disagreed with this fatwa. And I think like 10 other major articles have already been written, and one entire conference is being held against this fatwa because people seem to have woken up and said something is not right with this. Why would we use our zakat money? We should be using some money collectively to help Muslims politically and have like a lobby or whatever it may be to prevent harm from the Muslim community. But to use zakat money for that is extremely problematic. Number one, there's no precedent of doing this. The Prophet ﷺ, when he used to give money to some of the tribal leaders, it was coming from the spoils of war. It was not coming from the money of zakat, which is supposed to be going to the poor people. Number two, when you give money to politicians, usually you can't trust the majority of politicians, oftentimes even the Muslim politicians. Number three, you are giving money to something that may have a benefit or may not have a benefit. Whereas when you're giving money to someone who's actually in need and they're going to buy their expenses, it's something that's guaranteed. And the list goes on and on and on why there's no real precedent behind why you should do something like this. When the Muslims were being attacked by the Crusaders, when the Muslims were being decimated and killed by the Mongols, no scholars passed a fatwa and said, we're being exterminated. Baghdad has been burnt to the ground. We're losing all of our cities. Millions of Muslims are being killed. They didn't say, let's come up with a great solution. Let's divert all of our zakah money to help pay the Crusaders and the Mongols off so they stop killing us. No one thought of that plan because, number one, it's a ridiculous plan. It's not going to work. And number two, it's not a plan that has a basis in Islamic law in the Sharia. So, anyways, in a nutshell, that's what's happening, and that's why it's become controversial. But this is the opinion of some scholars, where we respect the scholars, but we don't necessarily have to respect the opinion or whatever, however they came to this conclusion.
How would the council of fiqh voted on this?
How did they vote on this? Well, I mean, there was like 6 meetings. All right, I attended 2 of the 6 meetings. So I wasn't at 4 of the meetings because I already mentioned my objection and I said I don't. These are my reasons why I disagree, and I think this is not the point. And then what happened in the other 4 meetings, I don't know, but the majority voted and they passed. They passed, yeah, it passed. It passed, and they got Amjad to also sign off on it, which is very surprising. The first joint fatwa from both fiqh councils. But as soon as they published it, Muslim scholars from around the world started writing refutations, and now everyone is kind of rethinking whether this was the right move or the wrong move. I was signed off on the refutation against this fatwa within the fiqh council, and it's my paper. The paper is on the fiqh council's website, right below the fatwa. So their fatwa that says this is allowed, and then there's a 5-page paper which says the people who said this is not allowed and their reasoning. It's a 5-page article there. Okay. Yeah.
What about startup equity? Because like even if it's like vested, I mean, based on like the nuances, it's like sort of worthless until liquidation.
Yeah. So if it's going to have a market value, something that you can actually genuinely sell, then you're going to pay zakah on it. If it doesn't,
even if it's to private markets, though.
No, because if you're going to be able to actually, if you could genuinely sell it right now, then you're going to be paying on it. If you can't, and there's like very few people you could be transferring it over to, then no, you're not going to be paying zakah on it. I think your brother asked me the same question, or maybe it was you.
I was just seeing if you changed your opinion.
No, my opinion's the same. if it's on the WhatsApp group, it's the same answer, man. Don't try to get different fatwa. So, yes.
Okay, what if you have like gold, like investment gold, but you don't have the cash to pay it? Like, let's say you have 4 ounces, so that's like over like nisab, but I only have, for example, like $2,000 in my checking account.
You sell 1 coin. See, technically, when people used to give zakah, they would give dirhams and dinars because that was the money. So they're technically giving pieces of gold to the poor, just very small pieces. So you cut your coin into 1,000 pieces, you give a little piece to the poor, and they can go and buy their groceries with that gold piece. I mean, they can't really, you get the point. You have to liquidate that gold. Now, it doesn't matter if you have liquid cash or not. You have to liquidate something else that is a zakatable asset, and then you sell it. Same thing with jewelry. So Imam Abu Hanifa, his opinion on jewelry, somebody has like 300 earrings and like 20 necklaces and 20 bracelets, and they go, I have so much jewelry, but I only have $20 in my bank account. What am I supposed to do? I'm such a poor person. No, you're gonna go and sell a few earrings, or you're gonna sell a necklace or whatever, and you're gonna pay your zakat because you have so much money. So that's what you do. Yes.
Is there an app or a website that you recommend that we use for?
There's so many apps. There's so many apps for zakat calculation, right? There's one with like, even you could pick the scholar that you want, and it'll tell you what their calculation is. So I'm also on that website. I forgot what it's called, like Zakat IQ or something. My view is that you don't need an app. All you need is you just add up all your assets and you find out if they're zakatable or not. And you just do the math yourself. The apps actually can make things more complicated, So you can get one of those sheets or whatever, but it's usually not that difficult. You add your cash, all your bank accounts, your investments like your stocks and everything, your jewelry if you're going to pay on the jewelry. You don't put your homes, you don't put your personal assets, you don't put anything else. Any debts that are due right now, just subtract them, you get your number. No apps really need, just the calculators needed. That's it. The back.
If I'm not mistaken, one of the slides showed that not UNHCR.
Oh yeah.
Can you?
I wrote not UNHCR. That's this is the old slide, because UNHCR is the United Nations organization, and the United Nations is usually run by who? It's run by non-Muslims. So the argument basically was that why should non-Muslims distribute our zakah, which is taken from Muslims, given back to Muslims? We should be a little bit hesitant. And that's what originally, when UNHCR decided that they're going to start collecting zakah on behalf of Muslims and distributing it, there was a lot of commotion in the Muslim community saying, why would we let non-Muslims control our ibadah, our act of worship, and put it in their hands? And then some of the activists that told me this flipped, and they said, you know what, I would rather trust the United Nations to distribute my zakah rather than Muslims. So I mean, this is an old thing. I'm not that adamant on this view, but just trust people that are trustworthy, have a good track record, and are not using up your zakah money for all their overhead expenses and paying Google and YouTube and all that stuff. That's all that needs to happen. Yeah.
One addition, in their website, they claim that there are so many fatwas they receive,
Mm-hmm.
and I was wondering if that the trustable information you have you anything
I've not looked into it. So if they receive fatwas, I don't know who they are, but they're a UN organization. They're oftentimes what they call government fatwas. And so we should be careful of government fatwas.
Why?
Because they are sus.
Suspicious.
Yes. All right, yeah.
Just want to make sure about the investment property and the rental.
So yeah, it's not zakatable because generally property is not zakatable. And the reason why it's not zakatable is because when you buy a property, you have a dual intention. Your one intention is that you want to rent out this property and on that asset. So the asset is stuck. It's not able to be used in any other way except you renting it out, and you're going to be paying on the money that you get from the rental that remains. But the second intention that people have is for capital gain, for appreciation of that property. And so when people buy a property, they have a dual intention. And if the primary intention was to just buy properties and flip them because they're going up in value, and you buy them and flip them, you're not even renting it out, you will be paying zakah on the entire property. But people usually also have the intention of, no, I'm going to get a steady income that's going to be coming from this property. And so in the past, when property values were not fluctuating as much as they are today, and people are not looking at it from that perspective, the zakat was exempt on a property because it's going to be used for regular income rather than for capital appreciation. Now people have a dual intention. So what do you do when someone has a dual intention? It's one of the most difficult issues in zakat. You either consider this intention or you consider that intention. So if you stick with the original default fatwa, you're not going to be paying zakah on it. If someone has massive capital appreciation, and the main reason is like, I'm going to buy this property, yeah, I'll rent it out, but I'm looking for 30% gain within the next 18 months, you should be paying zakah on that entire thing because your intention was clearly for massive capital gain. That's like an investment.
Only upon selling it,
No,
and the capital gain is within next 18
it's not upon within selling it. It's every time your zakah is due for the year on the market value of what that property is at the time, because it's just like any other investment. Okay. Yes.
If you feel comfortable sharing any zakat organizations you recommend, and then secondly, and if you have any guidance on following the sunnah and giving zakat to those closest to you versus like what's happening in Palestine. Do you do a 50-50? Whatever guidance.
Okay, yeah. So I strongly suggest using the CAP program. The CAP. What I love about the CAP program is the Community Assistance Program at ICOI and Rahma Center. The reason why I think it's a great program is number one, they have no overhead. It's run completely by volunteers. It's number one. Number two, the volunteers that run it, I know them personally. I've known them for 20 years. They're they're wealthy people, but they're very generous and very genuine people, and they're very hardworking people. So they know how to distribute these funds properly. So that's why I personally trust them, and many people know them, the ones who run it. And so they're very credible, and they have a very good vetting process, despite the fact that they're doing this all as volunteers. That's why I highly, highly recommend the CAP program. Right? It's a great program, and that's what they do. In terms of splitting between nearby, locally, and foreign, I think maybe a good balance would be like either half and half, or maybe a third, and a third. If you have relatives that are in need, maybe give a third to your relatives, a third to your local community, a third abroad for emergency situations like Sudan or Palestine or something like that. Yes.
I don't know if this is like a silly question, but the zakat recipient they shouldn't know it's zakat, right?
No, no. So the zakat, that's a good question. I forgot to cover that. So there's a person who's receiving zakah. The answer is they don't need to be told that it's zakah. You can say this is a gift so that they don't feel humiliated that they're taking zakah. So you can tell them, but you don't have to tell them. So if you think it's better to not tell them because they might feel bad or something like that, it might hurt their honor, you could just say it's a gift and it still counts as zakah. But you don't lie to them. So they say, is it zakah? You'd be like, no. You can't say no. You just gotta try and say no, no. I just wanted to give you a gift, but you don't say no. Okay, you don't lie. Other question, yes.
Well, about the Yusuf al-Qaradawi, he gave a fatwa a long time ago about the zakat could be used for building Islamic center and so forth.
Yeah.
And I believe the majority of the Islamic center in the United States is built with the zakat.
No, 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 it's not true. So he did give that fatwa, but no, the majority of Islamic centers are not built with zakah money, and they're not built with loan money either. Alhamdulillah, neither the majority of them across the board. That's actually not true. Maybe a few of them, but the majority are not. Yeah. So I think
How about the fatwa of Yusuf al-Qaradawi?
he has a fatwa. This is also the fatwa of the former imam of this masjid, but I think it's a very weak view. Yeah, I wrote a refutation on this a long time ago. Majority of scholars, in fact, almost all scholars, have said you cannot use it for this purpose.
Well, I sent the question to there's a group maybe now reaching 300 scholars about the fatwa of ulama and asked them about zakat to be used by some centers, and the response came to me with yes.
Did they say in affluent communities, or did they say in underdeveloped poor communities?
Why?
They probably said affluent, underdeveloped poor communities. Right? If a rich place like Irvine cannot build a masjid, and they need to zakah funds to build a masjid, something is wrong. I mean, people are.
Well, in Glendale.
Glendale, I don't know. That's a different world. But the problem is that people have marble kitchens. They're remodeling their homes for $100,000, getting brand new kitchen and everything. But if they can't donate enough to build a basic masjid for their community, something is very wrong with that community, right? So we need to change our mentality and change our mindset. I think that's the solution. So,
And
Right.
Until this mentality changed and have facility to serve, I give an example in Glendale. They tried to establish a center for many years. This was not. But if you told the people that we cannot use the zakat for purchasing that property, we would not have not been able to.
I understand the need, but I still think it should not be done. All right, inshallah. Any other last questions?
Will that building the Islamic center come under infaq fi sabilillah or sadaqa or?
If we open it up and say anything infaq fi sabilillah is zakah, I can take you out to.
No, that's not my question.
What's your question?
Can we consider infaq fi sabilillah, not zakat?
Oh, not zakah. Oh, just it's sadaqah. Yeah, absolutely. It's infaq fi sabilillah. Of course it is. It's building an Islamic center has so much reward. You build a masjid. Absolutely. Absolutely. All right, we'll leave it at that. Subhanakallahumma bihamdik. Ashhadu an la ilaha illa ant. Astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. You can ask. You can ask me. Oh, okay.
Barakallahu feek. Jazakallah khairan.
This one? Yeah.